sciences, then there's the world of human experience. It's all about us over here, like we have to understand what the plants are telling us and which ones we can use for what and all that. But ultimately, the story of this world is the experience of mankind. What's going on, and the experience of mankind. I was severely disappointed. I have to tell you, when I was a young man, I went to university and I studied history, and the reason why I studied history, I was a little bit tamim, innocent. I thought that there's going to be an honest search to understand how did the world get to this crazy place that it is today. Let's learn from what happened, and that way we can make the world better. But no one was interested in that in the history department. They just want to know which war happened when and what color hat, Napoleon War, and how many people died, and it was whatever. But the real story is not that. The real story is what's going on inside of mankind. Now in our generation, it's really coming to the forefront. It's become so prevalent. A couple of Jews were like, we're thinking too much about what's going on inside of their head, and they started this thing called, this science called psychology, and now the whole world has caught on to it, and everybody's paying attention, right? They didn't make anything new, but all of a sudden, maybe because of the luxury that we have in this generation, where just to get your daily bread and your water is a little bit easier than it used to be, right? So everybody, and also it's become popular now that, it's popular, just normative thought, look inside, see what's going on inside your inner experience, right? And so, but if we're just trying to understand what's going on inside of the human experience, inside of ourselves, think about each one of yourselves to try to understand your own emotional world, how much work it gives. And I can just tell you from my experience, I'm not going to speak for you guys, how far I am from getting there. You know what I mean? To truly understanding what's going on. When I feel this, and when I react like this, and when I'm triggered like this, right? Or when I'm depressed, or when I'm really happy, what's going on? How did it happen? Understanding all that. Rav Kook is our doctor. Rav Kook, and really the deeper Torahs, all based on Kabbalah, which is really to understand. If you're learning. Sorry for this long introduction before we get in, but if it's going to give a context that's going to make this piece just a little bit more powerful. If you open up the Kabbalistic Sfarim, Otzes Chaim, Rav Chaim Vital writes about the creation of the world, how he was taught by the Arizal. What was the creation of the world? There's chapter after chapter after chapter about all this stuff that happened before the world was created that we know it now. It's what do you need to know all that for? What's that all about? And if you learn the writings of the Arizal, if you learn something, it's talking about worlds and angels and chambers and all these things that they're not physical. It's all spiritual, right? And that's one of the big things is don't make it physical. But what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with my life? I'm just trying to interact with myself and with people, with God, in the most basic level, right? The answer is that everything that we have passed down from the upper worlds and the spiritual worlds, it's the only reason why it's passed down to us is for us to understand ourselves better and how to serve God better. But to translate that from those works, I was once with one of my teachers, one of my rabbis, is a big Kabbalist, and he jokes. Somebody said the writings of the Arizal, it's like mathematica. You guys know what that is, right? He said, math. In Hebrew, and he said, lo. It's como microbiologia. It's microbiology, right? It's the fine, right? But if you don't know how to translate it into your experience, so came the Rabbis and the Chassidus, the Baal Shem Tov, right? Matter of fact, there's a famous teaching in Chabad that somebody said, what did the Baal Shem Tov? What was the Baal Shem Tov's chiddush? He said everything the Baal Shem Tov teaching, the Arizal already taught 150 years before. So he said the Arizal taught it, but he taught you what's going on up there. The Baal Shem Tov taught you the exact same thing, but it's going on in here, right? And there's another story about the Rebbe Rayat, the previous Rebbe of Chabad, and that he was once in a hotel, a lobby somewhere in the world. I don't know, maybe in Warsaw, and somebody asked him, what's the chiddush of Chassidut? And so right next to him there was a lamp, and he took off the shade of the lamp, and he said, "Look up." And he saw and the ceiling was very detailed and beautiful. It was painted, and there was all kinds of beautiful detail on the ceiling. So he said, "Did you notice that before?" He said, "No." He said, "That's what Chassidut does." He said, "It's already there. You're experiencing it. I'm not teaching you anything new that you're not experiencing." but I'm helping you understand what's going on inside of you. So that's Rav Kook. Rav Kook is a master healer and doctor of these things, and therefore he's explaining to us today in this piece in Dalin the experience of Rishaim, of someone who's not on the path, someone who's going in an unhealthy way in his life, who's making poor decisions. And just to clarify, last clarification is that for common nomenclature, when people talk about a tzaddik and a rasha, they think that that's this intrinsic judgment about this person. He's a tzaddik, he's a rasha. That's in the eyes of the Torah. That's not how Hashem doesn't view it like that. Chazal didn't view it like that. What's this person doing right now in his life? What direction is he going? What decisions is he making right now? That's the term. The term is tzaddik and rasha is more about what state are they in at this moment. Rasha Gamur is one that he's just like a tzaddik Havdil. He's just made so many bad decisions, and it's so much harder to pull himself out of the mud, right? And he's very dedicated and devoted to that type of life. But it doesn't mean he can't. It doesn't mean anything intrinsically. What's the word? Hagdara definition about him. It's just it definitely defines the decisions that he's made in his life and his lifestyle, right? Up until now, but he can change it all around, right? In 1 second, like the Gemara says, "Yesh koneh olamo b'sha'ah achat." The person can acquire their world to come in 1 hour, 1 minute. He can change everything in 1 second, right? We've spoken a lot about that, but let's go ahead now. And this is a continuation of what we learned last week for those who were here. He says, "Ma'u makor harugza shel rashaim." What is the source of this rage, this anger that Rishaim have? Now, that's the first time you might have heard, right? That Rishaim, we think that they're sitting in mansions with all their stolen money and enjoying life, living off the fat of the land, right? But they're filled with rage. They're filled with anger. So Rav Kook says, what's the source of that? Mawa ketzef. Ketzef is another word. I don't know the difference exactly how to translate between rogez. Rogez is maybe like intense anger, and ketzef is really like rage.
Well, ketzef is, in other words, comes out of your mouth. It's like
foaming at the mouth. So what would you call that?
Foaming at the mouth.
It's like an experience of rage or like fury.
Your nose starts going red.
Right.
And also, it's like
right. Choriaf. Right. The choriaf. Another word for anger is choriaf. Is anger. He's feeling anger in his nose, fuming from the nose, right, or whatever. What do people say in English? The fuming from the ears, right? Interesting. I've never seen anybody do that, but
like in the cartoons.
Right, on the cartoons I've seen it for sure, for sure. But when a person gets angry, so it's their kotzer ruach is another word for anger. They're short of breath, right? So angry people, they flare their nostrils, right? That's what choriaf means. Choriaf means like the holes of the nose is literally the little translation of that, but it means anger, right? Because a person gets angry, their nostrils, right? Okay, where does all this rage and fury and anger come from? Ala olam kulo, and what do they feel anger towards? The entire world. They're angry at the world. Ma'u yesod ha'atzvut amara. What's the source? What's the foundation of their bitter depression, their bitter sadness that they experience? Ha'ochelet et haruach v'et habasar, which eats their spirit, consumes their spirit and their flesh, meaning their body. Today people know. Today they know. They've ways to measure amazing stuff in the last 5-10 years in science. How unhealthy anger is, just strictly on a physical level, and how healthy joy is, right? How healthy hoda'ah, what do you say? Great gratitude is, right? You guys know that they discovered the most effective time of the day to feel gratitude. You guys know what it is? Right when you wake up. What does a Yid say right when he wakes up in the morning? The first word that comes out of my mouth in the morning. It should be B'ezrat Hashem. Halavai. To remember every morning to say Modeh Ani, but not just to say it, to feel the gratitude, right? I don't know how they measured that, but somehow they measured that, right? Anyway, back in, where does this tremendous bitter sadness and rage towards the entire world come from, which consumes his spirit and his flesh, which fills his entire life with poison, which you find by Rishaim. Rishaim are bitter people. They're not happy, healthy, well-balanced people, right? These are people that they're suffering intensely. Today, in therapeutic terms, we talk about it as, victims of trauma are usually perpetrators, almost always perpetrators of abuse, or were the recipients, the victims of abuse themselves, right? And the trauma that a person experiences is something that they're replaying in their life. And if they were the recipient, now they're the what do you call it, right? So we understand that there's a pattern here, and we understand, meaning the greatness of that understanding is that it's not just like this person is just a rotten apple, right? There's a cause behind, right? There's a childhood cause. There's an ancient reason behind why they've chosen to live like they are, like they're living, and the decisions that they're making. But in the end of the day, no matter what has happened to you, and this is such an important distinction, especially in today's world, which I talk about in therapy a lot, is that whatever we experienced, and whatever all of our emotions, all of our pain that we've received from the world, from whatever, like we're not. That's not our fault, right? Usually sufferers of trauma, it's not our fault. There's no shame in it. There's no. But just because that's not my fault, what I do with that is my responsibility, right? I'm fully responsible for my actions in this world. It doesn't matter what happened to me. I have to figure out how to get myself in a way that I can be healthy enough to act well in this world, and healthy, right? And kind, and doing good things in this world, not just passing on the pain that I received, right? I have full responsibility. So the concept of the Rasha is one that's not taking responsibility for whatever he's experiencing inside, right? So he says that, but what's this poison, this inner world that they're having, so much pain? From where does this this, I don't know how to say mashchat, this destruction of their inner world, where does it come from? The bitachon pnimi barur, Rav Kook, right? So it's a good question. If somebody asked you that question, your life depended on it, I don't know what I would answer them. Rav Kook says with absolute certainty, he says, listen what he says, bitachon pnimi barur, with absolute clear conviction. Anu meshivim al zeh, we answer this question. Hamakor mimekor harisha kol zeh noveh. Mirsha'im yetzeh resha. From the very source of evil, that's where it comes from. Now, what does it mean? And then he quotes Mirsha'im yetzeh resha. I think it's a pasuk from Shmuel. From evil people, or from Rishaim, yetzeh resha. Evil comes out. Right? What does that mean? Whatever decision I make in my life, I draw the energy, the spiritually energy, for that action, or for that word, or for that thought, even, right? If it's a conscious thought, I draw from a spiritual source. If I choose, it's my free choice, right? I've got free choice in this world. So if I'm choosing to do something good, I choose to do an act of kindness, a small, teeny little act of kindness. You're downstairs and you just washed your hands, right, for bread, and you're going, so you can open up the faucet. You know the guy's waiting right behind. You can open up the faucet and let the water start running in for him before. The smallest thing seems like not so significant, right? But it's an action, right? When I do that, it's not just, okay, I decided to do something good. I drew down from the source of goodness, from the source of kindness, from the spiritual worlds of chesed, right? And from a revelation of God's goodness in this world. I draw down to the world in this tiny little way, right? Now, at that moment, on a spiritual level, the Sfarim say, our sages teach us that you created an angel, a spiritual angel at that moment. You made a spiritual angel, a good angel, right? depending on how much intention you had, that depends on what level this angel is in, what spiritual world is he in. You drew down holiness onto yourself, right? Specifically onto the parts of your body that you did that, right? You created a certain type of goodness in this world. There's all kinds of spiritual ramifications. But the point that Rav Kook is talking about here is that you drew down from a particular source at that moment. Like the spiritual energy that went into that came from this spiritual world called chesed and goodness and kindness and loving kindness, right? So too, lahavdil, if a person does something bad, right? It's not just that this moment I fell, and right, that there's a spiritual world of not goodness, and a person draws that upon themselves, right? Or draws that into the world at that moment that they're doing that. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody or make anybody feel bad, right? We all fall and everything, and in 2 seconds we can fix the whole thing. But the point is that we're tapping into a world when we depending on our decisions and our actions in this world, we tap into a world, right? That's one way you can understand what Rav Kook is saying. That makes sense. Meaning, where did all that rage, the anger, the bitter sadness that they feel, right? The resentment towards the world, and the toxicity of their lives. Where does it come from? Those are all midot that stem from the world of evil. When I say the world of evil, I don't want you guys to think that there's like a world called the world of evil. You understand? I mean, like, you understand what I'm saying, right? From the Sitra Achra, from the other side, right? Those are his midas. Those are right? If a person taps into Torah and Kedusha and good things, right? Each person in their own way. So the midot that come from that are joy, right? Balance, calm. Those are the midot of holiness, right? That they're the reaction to doing holy and good things, right? So Mimela, a person who's making really poor decisions in his life over and over and over, so he ends up also having really all these terrible toxic inner experiences, right? That's one way you could look at it. Another way you could look at it is more in the therapeutic sense that we were talking about before, right? That it's inherited, right? Just like we said that most perpetrators in the world were victims of it at a different stage in their life, right? On whatever level, right? The trauma that we have in our generation is intensely built into the fabric of modern life, right? Anybody that grows up with a TV is traumatized from a very young age, right? As a matter of fact, I don't have the number on me right now. But if you guys want Bli Neder, I'll look it up. A book that from one of my teachers he wrote in the late '90s about male depression, and he has one paragraph in there talking about violence on television, and at least back then I haven't seen TV in many years, but almost all violence on television is males against males or males against females, right? I don't know, today maybe things have changed because, that whole world has changed a lot of, male, female stuff, but the point is that he says that by age 18, your average American boy will have seen, like tens of thousands of murders on TV, and like it's impossible to count the acts of violence or the violent speech, right? And this is not on the, what do you call it, on cable, on the Netflix. It's on TV. It used to be, like at least, you weren't allowed to say certain things on TV. At least when I was a kid, they were breaking the law each time. Keep pushing the envelope a little bit. But think about that. Think about, if you guys know any young children in your life, think about the purity and the innocence that they have. And sitting in front of a TV and watching two adult males like hurting each other, not controlling their anger and taking it out on each other.
And one of them is the hero.
Right. It's usually the one that's not in the police uniform, right? So think about that. Think about what that does to us, right? Think about it. It's unbelievable. Violence, right? And the messages that a child learns at such a young age. What do I have to do in order to be good? What do I have to be to win? What do I have to do in order to not get hurt? Right? It's trauma. People don't have panic. I mean, some kids do, You know, most kids just watch it and like they're taking it in because it's what, mom and dad are sitting next to me, so like this must be good. This must be what I'm supposed to be watching, right? So, but anyway, the point is that there's intense trauma deeply embedded into the fabric of society. Everybody's a victim of it, and then some people are a victim of it more on an actual, experiential level, not just witnessing it on TV. And so when Rav Kook says that mimakor harisha, from the bad, you can understand that from the bad decisions that came before him, and he's passing it on. He received it, and he's passing it on, like the pasuk says in Shmuel, "Mirishaim yetzeh resha," from evil people, from Rishaim yetzeh resha. Evil comes out of that. They pass it on to the next generation. Where did they learn how to talk to their kids like that and to treat their wives like that? Right? They saw it from somewhere. They didn't make it up. Okay. Now we're all thoroughly depressed after hearing about all that, and now Rav Kook is going to heal us. But it's so important for us to understand that because even though we're Baruch Hashem, we're all here in yeshiva, and we're not Rav Kook is not talking about us, but we also sometimes experience some of those inner, experiences of rage and depression and all that, and so we want to understand like what's going on, right? Adrab, it's even more of a kasha for us. Like here I am in yeshiva, I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to push myself forward. I'm trying to connect myself, and yet I still fall into these places. Like that's even more of a kasha. What the heck is going on with me? Right? Let's go weiter and see what Rav Kook says. Chofshi hu haratzon. Hashem gave us a part of our soul which is called ratzon, desire. I'm not talking about desire for not like lustful physical desire. I'm talking about spiritual desire. What do you want? Your will, your free will, and it's free. It's in your hands. V'liyot gibor uben chorin amiti ba'u achayim. And the reason why we've been given this life is not just so we can pick which flavor of life you want. It's in order that we can be strong, free men, free people. Ben chorin. V'arisha shuya ba'omek haneshama. But if it's free, that means that just like I have the ability to be like the biggest tzaddik, Rav Aryeh Levine, Rav Kook, the Baal Shem Tov, Kedushas Levi, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right? I also have the ability, every single man, woman, has the ability to be also the worst of the worst. It's possible, right? It's not like throwing the dice. It's not throwing the dice. What that means is it's within the realm of possibility that men can do the most disgusting acts in the world, and they can also do the highest, most lofty, sublime acts in the world. And it's in our hands, right? What's that? How does that make you guys feel when you hear that? I mean, it's not a chiddush. Everybody knows that, but when you hear it said like that,
It's good.
Is it feel empowering or is it scary? It's a little bit scary. Yeah.
Responsibility.
Responsibility, yeah. Yeah. I can't tell you how scared I was to have children. Rabbis are not allowed to say that, but I was so scared. I don't know why I was so scared, but I think that what you just said, Micha, is right?
Yeah.
I think that word, responsibility, responsibility over this child was so it was intensely scary.
I wasn't scared when I had kids. I'm more scared now taking care of my grandchildren.
Yeah. Oh, really? Taking care of your grandchildren?
Taking care of my grandchildren. I mean, they're running around, and it's like.
Well, that's the job of the Zaidi.
Youngest
is to worry and to tell them to be careful.
My son's son is 1.5 years, and he's running around, and like my son wanted me to take care of him for a morning, and I said, I don't know. I mean, I have no problem changing diapers, but running after him.
All right. Okay.
Now I'm more scared.
All right. Okay. So back in the Rav Kook. So he says, "Arishashu yabomek haneshama." The evil is embedded deep in the soul. That doesn't mean that you have evil inside of you. It means you have possibility for evil inside of you, right? Human beings have done the worst things in the world, right? It wasn't kangaroos. Right? Human beings have done the terrible things in history. And if my ratzon, if I don't use my will to leave that, to not connect to that ability inside of me, to not connect to that place inside of that. It's inside of every human soul. הרי היא סותרת את המשקל השווה של החיים. So that's the decision of Risha. Risha is at this moment, I could do a terrible thing, I could do a great thing, right? So it's not usually so extreme, right? Moments of our life, but that's what it is, right? So when a person makes an act, you call the sin, you call whatever it is, Ma'aseh Risha, an act of evil. What he does is he sotert et hamishkal hashaveh shel hachaim. He destroys his inner spiritual equilibrium in his life. Right? All things being equal, we have a spiritual equilibrium, right? And it's very sensitive. את היחס הישר שיש לנשמתו של האדם, את כל ההוויה כולה בכללותה ובפרטותיה. The direct connection that each person, the soul of every man has with the entirety of creation, in the generality of creation and also in all the details of creation. Meaning, like we said last time, the whole creation of Hashem is this one single unit, and it's supposed to work together harmoniously. And what's the purpose? To align ourselves and to attach ourselves to Hashem, in order that Hashem should shine all the way from His infinitude all the way down into this very finite world. That Hashem should shine over here, right? and the way that happens is if everything's in harmony. And the determining factor if everything's going to be in harmony or not is not the president of Iran, but it's the decision that you make in your life. Should I fill up this natla with water for the next guy or not? Should I ask this guy what he wants? Does he want a little bit more hummus on his plate? Should I give a guy a smile when I'm walking down the street? Right? Should I not beat myself up when I'm feeling a little bit shvach? To be kind to myself, to be kind to other people. All those tiny decisions that we make in our life, that's how we do it. That's the switch that aligns everything, and then the harmony, and then everything works. But when a person makes a bad decisions in his life, which we all do sometimes, so the effect that comes from that is a dysfunction in the harmony from myself to the rest of the creation. And what happens that? He says, Veherusa harmonia, and the destruction of this harmony, machovim rabim hu misavev, it causes lots of pain. Lots of pain. Ukeshahu, right? There's all different kinds of metaphors we could use for that, but I think it's clear enough. Ukeshahu choder el haruach atzumim yisurav shehem mitgalim b'tzura shel zva'ah shel kitzafon. So he says, and when that disharmony pierces the person's spirit, right? Meaning, at the very moment that a person makes a bad decision, there's a reason why he's making a bad decision. He wants to get something, right? All right. Let's say there's a nice cheeseburger or whatever, whatever it is, right? At that moment, it looks pretty good, right? And it's probably going to taste really good, right? Like Rashi says, you shouldn't say that, disgusting. I don't eat pork. She said pork is probably really delicious. There's a reason why they like to eat it out in the world, right? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that that's not right for me, and it's not good for me. We have to be honest with it, right? So, but at the moment the person eats the cheeseburger, does he feel the disharmony in his soul?
Probably not.
He feels the intense pleasure of that cheeseburger that he couldn't overcome the desire for it at that moment, right? Who knows when he's going to feel the after effects, the spiritual after effects, and it's very subtle. Kadosh Baruch Hu, from my personal experience, Kadosh Baruch Hu works very subtly and slowly. Doesn't happen right. You have a question? You have a question?
Regarding like somebody eats a cheeseburger, if he's like feeling pleasure, or if he's feeling like the spiritual effects, like negatively affecting the spirit. Rabbi Nachman, I heard like a teaching, it was on like YouTube, somebody talked about Rabbi Nachman says, don't let the pig fat drip in your beard, like don't if you're doing something wrong, like you have this like part of your mind that's like aware of what you're doing, and don't lose yourself in it.
Don't leave yourself in what sense?
Like in the case of the cheeseburger, the person's like, it's all pleasure, and he's not connecting to the part of the soul that knows that
Right.
it's wrong.
Right. And think about it on a physical level also. Not a cheeseburger, but something that's unhealthy. Some type of unhealthy food, pleasure food, right? But it's all junk. If you look at the list of ingredients, it's like eat this, eat that, eat that, eat that, right? So this is not good for the body, right? My kids eat so much of it. I look at that. How are you alive? How are you healthy, Bichlal? Right? The body doesn't react right away, but it affects the body, right? The body has systems to purify itself, etc. But if we abuse it over and over and over, eventually there's a price to be paid. So too spiritually, right? If 99% of my life or 60% of my life is spiritually good and healthy, so I can absorb a certain amount of those negative things without feeling the effects of it so much, right? There always is an effect, but without feeling it, right? But if it starts to be more, so then, right, that's why the Russia in this case feels so intensely those negative emotions, that toxic inner life, right? But Rav Kook says that once it penetrates a person's spirit, and now the spirit, the ruach means that's the emotional world. That's where once the effects are being felt now of his poor decisions. Atzumim yisurav shehem mitgalim, the pain, the suffering that comes from that, the inner suffering is very intense. And it comes in the tzura of zva'ah, of disgust with himself and with life. Shel kitzafon, with rage, in the form of rage. Shel chutzpah. You guys know there's no way to translate chutzpah, right? A chutzpah, right? What is chutzpah in the most basic form? It's like, huh? You have the gall. You have the. There's another word.
The gut.
Right.
Swagger, haughtiness.
Audacity, right? but what is an act of a chutzpah? If a person screams at somebody, screams at an adult, a child screams at an adult, right? It's out of place, is what it is. If that child would scream at another child because they're in a fight, that wouldn't be considered chutzpah. If they would scream at somebody who's hitting somebody and they're trying to save them, that's not chutzpah. But the same scream at this adult or their parent or whatever, that's considered chutzpah because it's out of place. It's not in harmony. It's not. It's what's the word? Dissonance, right? To what's going on here, and that's why this person he experiences this pain as chutzpah. He feels chutzpah towards the world because he's not in sync with the world. Kids that are acting out, right, in an intensive way, they're begging for love. They're begging for connection. So why are you beating people up? If you want connection, let's go. Let's do a hug. Why do we have to do, right? Because they don't know what to do with themselves. They feel rage. They feel disgusted with themselves. They feel the chutzpah. Shel kalon, of shame, inner shame, which is something that's I told you guys I want to write a book about shame. I don't know what I'm going to say over there, but I just want to write a book about shame because it's so v'yeush, and of despair. Right? That's how it comes out. All of those. What's the chizuk here? I'm sorry, we're taking a long time, but I feel like it's very, very deep. I don't know if you guys are experiencing that as well, but that if you have ever experienced any of these things, I know I've experienced all of them. Each one of them on the list: zva, disgust, rage, chutzpah, shame, and despair. If you've ever experienced any of those, and you're thinking, "What the heck is wrong with me? Why do I feel this way?" So the answer is something is not in harmony right now. Right? Not in harmony with something's not in harmony with me and the Kadosh Baruch Hu right now, with me and my own soul. Instead of feeling bad about myself and about this thing that I'm feeling and kind of going into that, like you were saying, like being stuck in that experience, wait a minute. The first thing I should say, something's not in harmony. I think in different kind of like traditional medicines, there's a lot of focus on harmony, right? Not on just the symptom that you're experiencing right now, but like your systems have to be in harmony. I know in Chinese medicine that's a big focus, right? Something's wrong here, right? I was once playing a show when I was in college, and I was playing guitar with a buddy of mine who we grew up playing guitar together, and we played well together. and at a certain point, he was soloing, and he was just totally off. Just like, for my ears, it's like kind of scratching a blackboard, like, and I'm looking at him, and I said, and he's still looking at me like, you're off, yeah, and I'm like, no, dude, you're not on. We're going back and forth, and I looked down at my hand, and my hand was on the wrong fret, right? So he was exactly where he was supposed to be, but I was out of harmony, right? I was experiencing the cacophony of disharmony, but I was the one that was out of, right? But when you're feeling the disharmony in your life, check, how do I get myself back in harmony, right? And we experience that. What that means in practical terms of Torah, it means tshuva, whatever kind of level of tshuva I have to do. Not beating myself up more tshuva. I'm already feeling bad enough. I need to start feeling good, right? By reconnecting myself. But anyway, those are the kind of experiences that come from Risha. Velezot kurim hem atzadikim anshe hatov v'achesed. And this is exactly why Hashem sent us tzadikim in the world. Tzadikim anshe hatov, the people of good and of chesed, of loving kindness. Anshe ha'osher shelachem, the people of joy of life. Those are tzaddikim. Right? They're supposed to. I heard this week that the Chazon Ish said. I have to see this written. I have to see it inside. But he said, a Talmid Chacham that walks on the street, and he has a bitter face, a bitter facial expression. We give him lashes. We should give him lashes. That's what he said. Hey, are you kidding me? You're connected to Hashem's Torah, and you're right. Well, okay, so something disharmony. That means it might not be the real deal, so to speak. You know what I mean? But the people. That's what these tzaddikim are. They're people. They're joy of life. The joy of life. If you ever saw a picture of Rav Yitzchak Kaduri, Alav Shalom, he was one of the elders of the Kabbalists here in Israel. Passed away, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. He was always cracking up, laughing, right? Always cracking up, laughing. Like he looked like he was like drunk all day. He really did. And he's like, you think like, how can anybody take him seriously? He's like, everybody is like sitting on the floor next to him, learning Kabbalah from him, and it's just like punch drunk. That's what it is. The tzaddikim, they're people that are filled with good and with chesed and with light, the joy of life, and they're calling out to the reshaim umlalim, and they're calling out to the poor, unfortunate reshaim. And what are they saying? Bo, come. What are you doing over there? You're not stuck there, right? One of the things they experience is yeush, is despair, right? And that's one of the things that Rabbi Nachman was so intent about. No despair, no despair, no despair. You just get up and go on. You get up and you go on. And that's what the tzaddikim are saying. We're not castigating you. We're not sending you out of the fold. Come. Just get up and come. V'chiyu, and live. You don't have to live a life of pain and toxicity and inner rage and disgust and all that thing. Shuvu b'dacheim haraim. Just stop doing those bad things that you're doing. Just stop. It's not as hard as you think, right? People think to be a tzaddik, to be a good person, it's so hard. You don't have to be a tzaddik on the highest levels that we have stories of big tzaddikim. Just to be a good yid, a good person. It's it's not so hard. I have blocks. I have stuff I have to work out. We got to do the work. Nobody gets out of this place without doing the work, gentlemen. But it's not lo b'shamayim. Hashem didn't give us a Torah that's impossible to fulfill. Hashem gave us a Torah that it's like Rabbi Nosson says, Rabbi Nosson Breslov writes, he says the mitzvahs are so pleasant, right? It's true that sometimes it feels very heavy, right? But that's what they're saying. Shuvu midachechem haraim. Return from these bad ways. It's just a bad lifestyle. But lama tamutu? Why should you die? Why should you be living a life where you're already dead in your lifetime, so to speak? Hitadnu al tuv Hashem. Come and have pleasure on the good of Hashem. You don't have to have pleasure in the cheeseburger. You can have pleasure with Hashem. And then you'll see a life filled with joy and with pleasure, with a light. Shel shalom, a life of peace, meaning the inner peace, that balance. V'shel shalvat hasheket, and the tranquility of quiet in your life, right? Not all the pain of noise, of cacophony. Shel bitachon v'shel kavod, of trust, of security, and of honor, of respect. Ketal me'et Hashem, just like and I ends up with a pasuk here, like the dew that comes from Hashem kerevivim ale esif, like raindrops on a piece of grass, on the blades of grass. I don't understand why he ends with that pasuk. I'm not sure what Rav Kook's intention. A lot of times Rav Kook, he ends pieces with like a pasuk or a quote, and I don't always get it, right? But maybe you guys have an understanding like, but maybe it's just an allusion to like the gentleness of a life of harmony, right? You wake up in the morning. Did you notice the dew come in the middle of the night? No, we only notice it in the morning, right? On the grass and on the leaves. Gemara says without dew the world would not be able to exist. Right? I don't know what the scientists say about that, but
the dew, right? Tachariyahu, what is it read in the Adut Mizlach before Mincha? From the Zohar talks about how Tal is equal to the name of God, the Yud Kei Vav, without the A at the end. So it's representative of the three higher worlds of creation.
Right. Like it comes down without anybody noticing in this world.
To see if that fits in here somehow.
Right. For sure, but just on the most simple level, like when the Chazal said the world can't live without, just like we know the world can't live without rain. But dew, so what does dew do? Right? I don't know what they in the science. I don't know what they think about dew, how necessary it is, or it's just a reaction to the changing of the temperature.
Well, the world would be arid.
Yeah.
If we didn't have how does grass get moisture in the summer?
You're saying the same way. We're talking about the sprinkler system.
Yeah, maybe people didn't use it.
But we don't water the white plants, we only water the agriculture that we have.
Say again.
So we have crops and stuff, so we only water the crops, the agriculture that we want.
Right.
Produce, not the white stuff.
Right.
Otherwise everything would be
Right. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So maybe that's the illusion that Rav Kook is saying over here. But in any event, the he's going to go on in this next piece. You guys want to go for another couple minutes? Do this next piece also, hey? Yeah. Talking about this worldview and it's so empowering for us because instead of trying to deal with the acute issue of this negative emotion that you're feeling at this moment, realize that this is a general harmony thing, and where did I fall out of harmony? How can I bring myself back in harmony? And that it's not so hard, and the tzaddikim are calling out, right? And that he said shuvu midachem, that they quote, he's quoting from the Navi in Yechezkel, and we have several psukim that talk about it in that terms. That Hashem is saying, come back. I don't want the Rasha to die. He's done terrible things in the world. I don't want him to die. I want him that he should return and he should live, right? Okay, hey. Hatzar gadol shemagish kol tzaddik ba'atzmo kol she'al miut adveikut elokit. Now he's talking about more a finer nuance of a tzaddik, a person who's on the path of good. He's already devoted himself to goodness in his life, but sometimes he feels a certain type of pain, a deep pain, when he feels like he's not there yet. He's not attached to Hashem. He's not connected to Hashem. He's not feeling the light of Hashem in his life to the extent that he wants to. Sometimes a person can say, for all these years I'm trying and I'm just not there yet. Right? That he feels inside of himself that he's not able to quench his great thirst for connection to God. And he feels pain because of that. You guys know there's a lot of this is no small thing. He's not talking about just a very subtle experience that the big tzaddikim have. There's a lot of people who, especially Baalei Tshuva and Gerei Tzedek, that at a certain point, it's too much for them, or they're feeling so much because they have such a strong thirst and yearning for a spiritual elevation and connection and to be experiencing that, and it's not going at the speed that they want or to the intensity that they want. And at a certain point, they're like, they feel so much pain because of that. I'm still not there. That they unfortunately sometimes people give up on the path. But in any event, Rav Kook says that umitzar zeh kol levarav mishtabrim tamid mirov kilyon nefesh. And from this pain, he even feels it in his body. He feels like his body is his limbs break, so to speak, within him from all of his pining. And he doesn't have any comfort or any pleasure in the things of this world, right? The cheeseburger is not going to do it for him, right? Or the ice cream cone is not going to do it for him, or whatever it is, the vacation to the beach or whatever. That, he knows that what he really wants is that connection. Ze mamash tsar shchina. This pain that the person feels, that's the tsar of the Shechina Kedosha. You guys have heard that concept. We have the Shechina, we have the pain of the Shechina. What is the Shechina Kedosha? It's the revelation of godliness in this world. Right? I told you guys from Rav Yehuda Pataya before that if Hashem if like the sun, if you take the sun and the rays of the sun and the earth and the reflection of the sun off of the earth. So Yehuda Pataya says that it's an analogy. The sun is like Or Ein Sof, it's like the infinite light of God. The sun is like Ein Sof, it's like Hashem. The rays of the sun are like the Or Ein Sof, the light of the infinite light that comes from Hashem. The earth is us. And the reflection of light, that's the Shekhinah. Meaning that you can actually, that Hashem is seen, experienced in this world, like a ray of light. If it's just in the, right, you don't see the actual, right, the reflection of it off of us. That's the Shekhinah Kedusha. So when we say that that the Shekhinah is not in the world like it used to be, it means that there's something blocking it. And he says that, and says Rabbi Pataya, that's like clouds. Clouds are created by sins and by the disharmony when Am Yisrael is not doing really what we're supposed to be doing in the way we're supposed to be doing it. So then those rays don't reach their target, and there's a tsar, there's a pain because of that. Because Hashem only created this world to be revealed in this world, and when it's not happening, everything's stuck, and there's a tsar there. There's a pain. The way that pain is experienced, one of the ways that pain is experienced in the world is this experience that we're talking about. Person thinks there's something wrong with me. I'm not feeling attached to Hashem. I'm not having dveikus. I'm not feeling spiritually elevated. I'm not reaching the level that I want, right? And he feels pain from that, and he feels double pain because he feels like, and that means that therefore equals there's something wrong with me, or I'm never going to reach it, or that's just this generation, or the Torah is not true, or whatever conclusion he comes to from that, as opposed to just being with that pain. That pain is the pain of the Shekhinah Kedusha, and you're experiencing it. And so connecting to that makes a big difference. Rav Kook says, "Shetochen hachayim, shekol olamim kulam homer lashlemut." The content of all the worlds is pining for the shlemut, for elokit ha'elyona, for I don't even know how you translate that. Complete, total, godly, exalted wholeness. How you like that? Right? Shetit galebem. The mountain is pining for godliness to be revealed in it. The trees, even the Iranian president, really, and all of the people that are trying to hurt Am Yisrael, even them, the depth of them is pining for that Hashem should be revealed in the world, right? One of the reasons why anti-Semitism in this world is because they don't understand why, but they're mad at us because we're blocking the whole thing. We're stopping the whole thing from coming through, right? And so, but everything in the world is really pining for God to be revealed in it altogether. V'itgalut azot, and this revelation, b'achavata v'tanugeh, with all of its expansiveness and all of the pleasures that will come with that, mutnahi shetzichash l'shichlul haratzon hachofshi shebnei adam. It's dependent on one thing, and that's the free will of mankind. The elevation, the positive use, the perfected use of man's free will. Does that make sense? And all of the great skill and all the great deeds and the good deeds and the beautification that comes from man's free will, right? It's not just like do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. It's how you do it, right? If you tell your wife, she says, you don't tell me I love you enough, and you tell her, okay, I love you, right? It's not gonna go, right? No, I really do love you. No, right? You buy flowers, right? It's the way that you say it. It's not just saying it. It's the way that you do it, right? That's the beautification. of free will. Al ken mishtokekim hem atzadikim l'tshuvat haklal hatadi, and therefore tzadikim are constantly wanting everybody to be perfect. Everybody, it should be good for everybody. There's no competition by the tzadikim. Real tzadikim, they don't feel competition with anybody, and they don't understand the concept of competition. Like, it should be good for him. It should be good for what's the problem? Adrab, I want it to be good for him. Ubetochiyut levavam rodfim hem lezakot lachayavaya, and in the inner depths of their hearts, they're chasing to bring merit to people, to make people better, especially to those that are far away. Kaman deradev batachayaya, just like a person who's chasing it for his very life. Ki be'emet hu chayenu v'chayei kol olamim, because that's the truth is that is their life. Why? The spiritual level that I can attain is totally dependent on you guys. And you guys' level is totally dependent on me. And all of us are dependent on everybody else. And therefore, it's in our own, like I heard someone say, an enlightened self-interest. Right? It's in my enlightened self-interest that everybody should be on the highest level. Everybody should be elevating themselves. Everybody should have shefa and goodness in their life, spiritual goodness. Because that makes it possible for everybody else to have even more. Right? And it's a forward-feeding cycle. So, Bezrat Hashem Yidbach, these deep understandings of Rav Kook should give us a little bit of an insight into our own lives and our own inner experience, that we shouldn't fall into the pits of like in the previous piece, the difficult experiences that we have, the difficult emotions that we have. We all have to do the work that we have to do to remove our own blocks and everything, but to realize that my job is to realign myself with this greater harmony. And then the second piece, that experience, if I'm feeling beaten up because I want to be higher, I want to be better, and it's not happening, so that's the tzad of the Shechina. I'm together with the Shechina Kadosh, right? And let me keep on working, and not let me fall into the pits because of that. Be'ez Hashem. Okay, gentlemen. Now we've had a healing session with Rav